Want to sell like your company's top sales performers? Imagine having every sales pitch tailored to your prospect automatically. With GenAI and machine learning, Intersight gives you game-changing insights, helping you close your deals faster, smarter, and more effectively. In this video, Jingcong, who is the co-founder and CEO of Intersight.ai, breaks down how to unlock your winning playbook and how to sift through mountains of sales data in seconds. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Leaders Uncut. It's so great to have you here with us today. And it is my great pleasure to have with us today Jingcong, who is the co-founder and CEO at Intersight. Hello, Jingcong. How are you doing today?
Hello, Catherine. I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I can't wait for you to share what you're doing with Intersight. I find this fascinating and so needed. So, why don't we start with you giving us a little bit of your background and
hmm
why you started Intersight with your partner? That would be a great start.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So I've been in B2B technology for over a decade. And really my background has mostly been on the marketing side, so B2B marketing. And then over time, I've basically, as I progress in my career, taken on more responsibilities, went to actually smaller and smaller companies over time because and that's just kind of where my heart is working with growing startups. I got more responsibilities in sales enablement. For those of you who don't know, that just really means training the sales teams on kind of how to engage with customers, especially sell different products, newer products. Created a lot of materials for them, did a lot of trainings, and during about from 2019 to 2023, I did that for two different companies. And during that time, I really noticed how extremely challenging it is to just be a sales professional in that kind of environment, in a startup environment where, people don't know your brand. You have lots of competitors. You have a pretty complex sales cycle where there are many people who need to be involved, right, in the buying cycle. And so I noticed a lot of the same problems that they face are all around, around engaging with buyers effectively because they didn't have the time to sit down and really research each person, each company thoroughly, right? There's just not enough time. So tailoring the message, tailoring the questions they're asking, how they pitch, that was a challenge. And then similarly, right, to move the deals forward, it takes, a level of recapping the what's happened, what is the value, why are we moving forward, what's the required investment. So creating business cases, creating, project plans to move the deal along, that was all very time consuming. And when I noticed these problems, and back in 2023, when ChatGPT kind of became mainstream, my friend and I started talking about how we can better use AI to solve real business problems. And so one of the great things about large language models and generative AI is their ability to sift through massive volumes of text information and extract key insights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here in the B2B sales world, we have this great opportunity to, actually really analyze all the conversations salespeople were having with buyers, all the recorded Zoom calls, all of their emails, and actually understand what is really working, right? What are the best performing salespeople doing? What are the real concerns of the buyers? What are the real questions they're asking? How were those questions addressed? We have all of this data. Now with AI, we have a much more powerful tool
Yep.
to actually mine it and surface insights. So that was a long way to say that's kind of how we landed on this core idea of Intersight, is to help every single rep operate like the top performers from their company because we can now help them understand what the top performers are doing.
Yeah.
We can help them understand their buyers a lot better. And we can surface those insights to salespeople when they need it, which is right before their meetings to guide them in those prep. And we can help them when they need it, which is also right after those meetings to recap information to create business cases, etc.
And it's so critical because I know I was in sales too at some point, and I have worked with a lot of salespeople. You spend about what, 60, 70% of your time doing research. I
Yeah.
mean, this is what you do, and this is such a waste of time for employers. So
Mhm.
I would imagine your setup, your system here with GenAI and LMMs is saving so much time. I mean, improving productivity to a level that is pretty significant.
Yeah, that is absolutely the goal. I mean, I think doing that level of research to show that, you do understand the needs of this buyer is really critically important.
Mm,
You can't skip that. I personally don't think you should just kind of it's helpful to take a moment to think about it, but again, what is missing today isn't just a research piece, but understanding how did your peers win these similar deals to
yeah.
this one that you're currently working, right? Like that stuff is usually just really inaccessible before, even if it was recorded, because it's like it's in their emails. It's in
Mm,
their conversations that are not exposed to you, but we now have a way to surface what the peers are doing
yeah.
to one another.
Yeah, of course. No, that makes a huge difference. My God, I mean, I would definitely use something like this to generate that insight because the thing is also people are very mobile. People shift jobs and
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
the time now, right? It's not like
Yeah,
before you stay 20 years in a company.
yeah.
So it's constantly in motion,
Yeah,
right?
and I think one of the interesting things I was talking to one of our customers just last week is this dynamic of shift that you speak of, Catherine, right? Is even within a company, right? They are trying to really hone in now on a new segment. Okay, so now they're honing in on a segment versus before they were more broad, right? They were kind of
Mm,
targeting more broad set of industries. Now they're honing in. And now there's only, a couple of people there who are already specialized in the newer segment they're going after, right? So there needs to be a way for the other sales professionals to quickly learn how like all the nuances of that new segment, those buyers, those their
yeah.
needs, etc., right? And
Yeah.
so they really actually see us as a good way to kind of speed up that learning cycle.
That makes sense. But also, you have sometimes many deals lined up in your silo, and it's very hard to prioritize those deals. So you have also a tool. I mean, your tool incorporates that option. You can prioritize deals depending on the insights that were collected, right?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that's really interesting, I've been in this space of, marketing automation,
Yeah.
data, for, there's all kinds of signals, right? You can use from your first party, people's actions on your website, as well as
Hmm.
third party to figure out like who is more interested and therefore who should you prioritize to reach out to, right? So that stuff has been around for, I think, the last decade. It's certainly matured a lot.
Hmm.
But what's really interesting is this deal risk. Let's talk about deal risks for a second, right? Because
Yeah.
the thing is, there has not been a really any kind of systemic ways before for rep salespeople to understand deal risks based on the deal history of other deals in their company. So what we're actually doing now is we can now understand, okay, these are actually the deal risks that your sales reps have experienced, right, in their past deals.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we can now detect these are actually the ways and action steps that people took to try to mitigate these risks. And then these steps are actually successful. So now, as a salesperson, when you're working a deal, what we're able to do is say, hey, we detect, maybe there's a risk around budget, there's unclarity around whether there is budget, and there is also maybe there's unclarity about the next steps to make a decision, what their decision criteria are, right?
Yeah.
And we can actually now surface like, okay, well, given these are the risks, these are actually questions you can ask to the buyer. These are the things you can try to mitigate that risk based on what has worked for your peers in your company when they face the same kinds of problems. That's the part that's been missing to date.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand that. That's a critical part. All right, there's also another feature that I love that your system incorporates, your software incorporates, is a lot of people, they also lose deals because their lack of good communication, right? Good communication via email or whatever they say. Sometimes it's not relevant enough or it's not professional enough. So you also help salespeople generate professional emails that are relevant to their needs, that have touch points on the biggest challenges that their audience is experiencing, right? I mean, that's also a critical area that where a lot of people lack this level of sophistication that is very important.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. To kind of clarify that,
Yeah.
what it is, right, is, of course you can, as a human, right, you remember what happened, right? You remember all your prior interactions. And sure, maybe you're thinking, okay, I need to now communicate to these three buyers, right? Buyer side contacts I have to make sure that there is actually alignment between the three of them, that they establish their priorities, right? And so that we can then say, okay, this is the right proposal for you, for you three, right? And that's all fine, but maybe maybe I sense there's some sort of internal sort of lack of clarity, right? Or disagreement between them, right? So there are these more delicate situations, right? And maybe I'm trying to craft the right thing to say, right? But and I'm using ChatGPT or another, AI tool to help me do that. But the problem there is I don't have ChatGPT doesn't have all of that historical information, all that context, right? I cannot just quickly upload all my emails, my call transcripts, and give it that context there. But we have this system, right, that wraps around your core sales technology stack, right? Your conversation recording systems, your emails, your CRM. So that context is already there, which is why, the communications we can help you craft can be a lot more relevant.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, you have to. People know nowadays what can be generated with ChatGPT. They understand that, right? So you really that's great to use it. But I really think it's important to get to a higher level, a top-notch, a level of customization, because very soon it's going to be hard to believe anything that you receive because it has been generated, right, by something like ChatGPT. So let's not forget the human touch here. I think the human touch is going to become more and more critical going forward, because people already have that awareness, and very often,
and the human knows what they really need to do. They're like, here's my objective. For example, back in the sales context, right? Like, is the objective here that I want to quickly get a initial deal closed so that we can help this buyer, this organization, with his initial solution, and then we can expand over time. That could be objective A, versus if objective B is that you want to have this bigger package sold up front, that's a different objective. AI doesn't know what your objective is, so I think it really has to take that lens, that instruction from the person.
Yeah. Is your marketing making an impact? Are you reaching the right audience? Is your messaging truly connecting? Are you maximizing your return on investment? At Slice Marketing, we use AI-powered insights to fine-tune your targeting, optimize your messaging, design high-converting websites, and craft content that inspires, entertains, and educates, or to amplify your brand's impact. Sometimes a small adjustment can create big results. Let's chat, no strings attached. Email us at catherine.oaks@slicemarketing.com or visit our website. It's critical. I see it as critical. So leaders, what I love about your system too is that leaders really can have develop a good understanding of what works based on data. Then we can also create reporting and develop playbooks and tactics that we can share with their salespeople, right? And those playbooks and tactics that I would imagine are in constant evolution, right?
Yeah, and I mean, playbooks is a really interesting topic, right? And they've been around for quite a while, and I've seen some really fantastic playbooks, and like they're extremely critical when you want your sales team, for example, to learn to do something new, right? Because like I said earlier, there's this customer where they're going after this new segment. The leadership is going to have some knowledge and hypothesis and things they want the salespeople to try.
Right.
So that gets institutionalized in a playbook, which is great. But I think what AI can now do is kind of help companies unlock the organic playbooks, right? That is actually based on how things are really done, that's working, that maybe the leaders haven't necessarily considered, right? This is information they didn't know before, right? It might be really good, hopefully, right? Based on what their best performers are done, but it could also help them surface things that are like, one of the things we can do is like, here are things that salespeople are doing where they don't fully, for example, address the buyer's concerns, right? Because this is their response. This is, incomplete. For example, we can surface those things as well in a much faster manner than manually trying to analyze and listen to calls. We're sampling, talking to your people, right? And they should still do that. I'm not saying they shouldn't. It's just there's now another alternative which surfaces something that is hard to surface before.
Yeah, no, it's an alternative that's going to save hours and hours of work. Also, I'm sure people will have that question. So when you start using your system, you don't need to enter content yourself for each individual that you're targeting. Your system allows you to generate, to pull content from a lot of different platforms, including Dropbox and Google Drive, right?
Yeah, so that part is on our roadmap. And part of what that is for is, for sales enablement professionals, which, I was in their shoes before. They have to spend a lot of time keeping content up to date, maintaining a library, right? And what ends up happening, which was in the case, is like we would create things for salespeople, we would put it into Google Drive folders, and then we would also put it into another tool that is dedicated for sales enablement for salespeople to use, right? And then anytime we create something new or update the version, we have to put it up into multiple places. So our idea, and by the way, and salespeople were not even using even half of all the things we created because they just bookmark their favorites and then they don't look again. Which
That's so
again,
true.
I'm not blaming anybody. It's just, they're busy. So our idea is, why don't we just, we already have a system where the core structure is, here, sales rep, you have all the information about your active deals, and you have all these different tools and capabilities to help you progress the deals. Now, one of which is, here's the suggested materials, content, articles, information snippets, videos, etc., right, to send to the prospects to further that deal, or to just further educate them or keep in touch with them, whatever is a use case, because AI is intelligent enough to do a really good job of classifying the content that otherwise, your sales enablement professionals manually classify and manually
Yeah.
tag everything. And so we just, instead of saying, here is this repository, we're pulling specific pieces forward to the deals for the
Yeah.
sales reps.
Yeah, and that's critical. Yeah, I mean that I mentioned that because integration is a question that people, I'm sure, have all the time with you. Can I integrate your software with any of the platforms I currently use?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have all their
Mm-hmm.
data already entered
Mm-hmm.
into, any popular platforms out there. So I would imagine that that is something that you enable, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we are very different from, I
Hmm.
think, a lot of other SaaS B2B applications
Yeah.
because normally, when they're created, it's like, hey, come to our SaaS application. We do something, right, that is unique here.
Yeah.
What we're doing is unique, right? But we're saying, hey, we, the problem that you're having is you're not getting enough insights, enough tactical guidance out of your existing data sources,
Hmm.
which are these other applications like your conversation intelligence tool, all the emails, right? These are siloed and these are hard to parse through by humans. So we started by thinking first and foremost, what are the integrations we need to actually give salespeople really powerful insights?
Right.
And we did not release a version of our product until, we've built those integrations. We've done a lot of testing to see what kind of insights we can get out of those. That's kind of how we came about at this.
Yeah. Okay, no, that I understand that. So of course nowadays everybody is overwhelmed with all this AI data, all this new AI software. It is intimidating because you know that you will have to incorporate new systems in order to stay relevant, in order to stay competitive, in order to reduce your cost, in order also to attract the right people within your team. And I'm wondering here, what is what's your process? Do you allow people to check a demo? How do you onboard them? Would you
Mhm,
mind
mhm.
addressing that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I think people in the talking about like the sales marketing data and sales marketing tool space, people have are there's a fundamental shift that is happening now. Has that
Mm,
started, I would say maybe at the end of 2023, early 2024, and how people evaluate technology, right? And part of it
mm,
is because there are a lot more newer AI powered technologies now
yeah,
out there. And that is, people used to see some demos and then they sign an annual contract.
yeah,
But right now, I personally, if I were advising a marketing or sales leader, I can totally say, hey, you may not want to do that anymore because the space is very fast changing,
mm,
right? You might find something more useful for your organization, or your organization's needs might change in 6 months. So why don't do that, right? Like don't get locked into a stringent annual contract. What we do is a couple of things. First is we do a free 30-day guided trial.
yeah,
And that is guided. That is not like us throwing over everything to you because, to get value, we do have to connect to a few of your systems, right?
right, right,
And then, but we really just treat it like a real customer implementation. We have the sales leader usually nominate a sales professional on their team to be the pilot user, or you can have more than one, right? We make sure that they get to understand how to navigate, use the platform. Extremely simple, as simple as ChatGPT, as you saw, right? But we make sure that they understand and we actually check in with them, right?
yeah,
To get their feedback because we want to and that's the other thing that I've seen is many tools are implemented by the leaders because it seems like very valuable, right? But they don't notice the incremental burden that
mhm,
additional tool places on their salespeople, and that's why the salespeople they don't use it unless
yeah,
they personally find it beneficial to them, right, on a
yeah,
daily basis. And so what we're doing during implementation is we're asking and checking with a sales rep, like, hey, would you use this on a weekly, daily basis. What are you doing? How is this helping you progress the deals? That's what we're doing. It's more collaborative.
And
And then, if this works, then we can roll it out to
yeah,
um,
yeah.
their
And, and
team.
and I love that it is so important to have that guided introduction because, like you say, a lot of people, they get something, we buy something, we try it for a couple of days, and then we feel like we don't have time to learn it, and we forget about it. So having a guided approach, I think it's critical into the success of what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I think just getting people to realize that, we have this system where AI is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but it's on their company's data, right?
Mhm.
We're not, this is not, so they need to kind of understand how that approach works. And then, of
Yeah,
course, it's not quite the same as, hey, this is another thing where your leaders are putting in playbooks.
true. Very true. So what does the future look like? What is your goal? What is your short-term goal?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, in the short term, I think again, the reason I started Intersight, right, is because I really feel like when people in the sales profession, like when they are doing their best work, right, it's not really about selling, it's more about collaborating with the buyer and
Hmm.
meeting their needs, right, in a way that is win-win.
Yeah,
But it's hard to do that, and salespeople face a lot of short-term pressures
yeah,
too, right? From their organization, they're
yeah.
stressed. So my goal is to actually help them love their jobs.
Hmm.
That is the goal, right? That is from the very beginning. I want them to, of course, close more deals, right? But do it in a way that builds better relationships, right? Better connections, impart more knowledge and like real world value to the buyers along the way, so they can feel proud of what they do. They feel less hurried, less stressed, have greater job satisfaction. They
Yeah.
feel like they're really valuable members of their organization.
And that's important. I mean, there's a lot of stress. It's a very stressful job, first of all. And like you
Yeah.
say, there are a lot of short-term expectations, a lot of it. So having the right tools is going to be a game changer. And now key is to convince people that you are it, right, in this crowded world, but you have something that I have not seen before. And that's something definitely worth looking at. I would highly recommend anyone who has, of course, everybody has salespeople, right? But anyone who is progressive and understands the need for something like that to at least look at it and connect with you and check it out, have a demo and try it out for 30 days. My God, there's nothing to lose there.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, well, wonderful. So great. So we talked about yourself, your company, your background. And now I'm really curious. I asked this all my guests at the end of our conversation is to share a story of resilience, some challenges you had to overcome in your life, what you learned
Mhm.
from it. A lot of
Mhm.
people need to hear motivational language here and stories that are inspirational because it's great to have examples that we can listen to and remember in our lives. It can make a big difference. So what would that be for you?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, I mean, that's a great question. Can I think about it for just one moment and sit
Yeah.
with it for a moment? Um, I would say that starting this company
Oh, yeah.
has definitely been a test in how resilient am I, really, right? How
Mm,
how tough am I? How persistent am I?
yeah.
In terms of the challenges I faced, right? Again, it goes back, I think everything we do in life, right? It goes back to what's the gap between your expectations and reality, right?
Mm,
And then when you have that gap, how do you get through it so that you want to keep going? And in terms of my story here is, I'll just tell you, right? A couple of the areas of what's made it tough is, I've worked in startups before where it felt like it was pretty easy for them to get lots of funding at
Mm,
high valuations and not super difficult, right, to kind of get going. But I think what happened in the US, I'm just talking about the US, with the funding environment for early stage ventures, right? The angels, the venture capitalists, it's really pulled back,
yeah,
right, as a
yeah.
community. And that's been very challenging because when I started, I was expecting it to be easier, much,
I know.
much harder,
Yeah,
right, than it's been, right? And
yeah,
then I think the other side is as a leader, especially as a founder, you're gonna have you're doing it because like for me, it's because the ideas, my connections to the customers, my interest in making salespeople's lives better, right? But I am not the one who knows all the tech or understands all the technical details, right? And so figuring out how to even make sense of some of the engineering challenges we've had, the bumps along the way,
yeah.
and why things are, for example, haven't worked, delayed, etc. That's that's certainly been interesting and I mean stressful to be honest. But I think my I mean what keeps me going, right, is that I think I really love the problem space and
Mm,
the type of customers that we want to have that we
yeah.
have and that's what keeps me going, not right, so
It's, you know what, it's a great, and you're absolutely right. First of all, it's not supposed to be easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it. You have to have a dream, because if you don't have a dream, you don't have the passion that's going to allow you to keep pushing when you face very challenging times. And we all doubt. I mean, I know I've been involved with startups, in many startups, and it's a game of never giving up, because you will be tempted many times to give up. But when you have a passion, when you have a dream, and going after that dream is worthwhile.
and I
But
mean the other thing is we have really passionate like team members, right,
that too, it is so critical that your team behind you follows you, right? You can't
right,
do it on your own.
right, yeah,
And you're right, the VC landscape, because I know I'm doing this for two other companies too. It is a challenging one. It's very hard to get funding when you're early stage company. It's, you know, this it's something that seems to be sometimes impossible. But I think it will come back. I think it is slowly evolving. I have seen some progress, but
hmm,
they want to see determination. They want to see
yeah.
proof of concept. They
And
want to
there are
see it
other
really adopting.
alternative funding sources, right?
That
I
too,
think
yeah.
it's like if there's a there's a need, like there's you want to go after it, you will find a way.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of I've recently made some great newer friends who are other female startup founders,
Mm,
and just like seeing how persistent
yeah.
and wonderful they are,
Yeah.
it really keeps me
It,
motivated.
and you should, because I really think the landscape is evolving. It will be evolving, you know, once everything stabilizes. Right now, there's so much uncertainty still out there, but I see progress in that area. I am confident that it will change. It has to. It has to
Yeah.
change, because life and business and this country is based on entrepreneurship. That's what it is. So we have to, they have to be there to encourage entrepreneurs to keep innovating, because it is critical to our survival.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so very much, Jin-Song. Thank you for everything you're doing, for your story, for your resilience, for making your dreams come true, because it is exactly what it is here. And we need more people like you. We need power women like you also to take on this type of enterprises that are going to have us all evolve in what we do every day, but also make our job easier. That's an important facet of everything we're doing.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, a great opportunity to be on your show, Catherine.
Thank you for having you here, for you coming here and participating. I love it. And again, everyone, please share Chinsong's story everywhere on your network, because what she's doing is going to be critical for sales departments and for any type of organization that needs to grow through great sales teams. They are really the leaders opening up doors here. And when we have tools like that that allow us to save so much time, I mean, it increases our productivity dramatically, but also it also generates trust with the people that we are trying to target here, because it shows that we have done our homework and we know what their challenges are and how we can address those challenges with efficiency, which is an important key and very important key point here, that what Jingcong is doing here with her software and with her company Intersight. So I really encourage you all to share what she's doing, to share this interview, because you never know the influence you can have on someone's lives, and we have to work together and help each other out to let others know what everybody is doing with new technologies and with AI. Like I say many times, AI is not a foe, it is just a tool. Just like the internet was a long time ago, we are now facing exactly the same opportunities. It's not a challenge. I see there's opportunities. And I think when you generate the right mindset and the right perspective on what we have to go through right now with new technologies, it opens doors instead of closing them. So again, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.